So the first thing that we're going to be looking at, it's going to be photosynthesis, which is going to include plants only. Animals don't go through that. Bacteria, they do go through photosynthesis, but we're going to focus in plants. And where photosynthesis actually happens, it's in this little organelle right here, this green organelle, which is called a chloroplast. Okay, you see more than one. There's another one right there, and there's more in the plants. It's just that in this plant, in order to make it fit, there's only two. So chloroplast is full of chlorophyll, which is responsible for photosynthesis, and photosynthesis is just the process of going from sunlight, right? So you have sunlight, and the process just turns that sunlight into glucose. So that's the very, very basic description of photosynthesis, changing sunlight into glucose. Okay, and we're going to go more in detail in this process, but you need to remember that it does happen in the chloroplast, only in plant cells, protists, and it's turning sunlight into glucose. Okay, all right, so the next thing that we're going to look at, or what we looked at in class, is this, and this is the general picture of what photosynthesis is. And they give us the reaction over here, okay, and if we split that in two, you have your reactants, okay, which is what reacts or what goes into the equation, and then we have our products, okay, and we're going to put them in this picture because that's where they need to go. So we have the first thing we need to add is the light energy. Light energy goes here. So light energy comes into the plants, okay, or into the leaves from the sun. Okay. The second thing that comes in is carbon dioxide. So this is going to be carbon dioxide, okay, and this is CO2, and you'll see it in the equation as well up there on the one that they gave us. And then water from the soil goes into the plant through the roots, so we have water, okay. So again, that's the reactants, and you can see them here. So CO2 is right here, and water is over here, okay. So you'll see it in the drawing, and you see it in the equation. So after they go into the plant and we add this light energy, then we make a sugar that is called glucose, and that's this one right here, okay, glucose, C6H12O6. And then the plant also produces oxygen, which is actually a byproduct, a waste during photosynthesis, okay. And that's the general idea, or the general formula for photosynthesis. We have this light energy that combines or makes carbon dioxide and water react to make glucose and oxygen. And remember, this process is happening in the chloroplast of cell plants, okay. So this is what you need to remember, that equation, and you need to remember a balance. 6 CO2 plus 6 waters plus light energy equals 1 molecule of glucose and 6 molecules of oxygen. Okay, so that's what we did in class. So after we covered that in class, then we started looking at light dependent and light independent reactions. Okay, and I gave you this picture, and I'm just going to go through it. You can follow your notes, but I'm just going to go through what this picture is showing us. Okay, we split this chloroplast, because this is a chloroplast, in two, and we said that photosynthesis actually happens in two reactions. Then the first one is called light dependent. Okay, so light dependent reactions. And what happens here is we have water, which is here, okay, and we have light. And if you look at your equation, you'll see that light energy and water are reactants, right? So the light and the water go into this structure right here that we called, or that is named thylakoids, okay? So the thylakoids. Now the thylakoids look like pancakes. If you look at the picture, they look like a bunch of pancakes stuck on top of each other, okay? And what happens in the thylakoids is that this water comes in, the sunlight comes in, the water comes in, and then the light hits the water, splits the water molecule, okay, sends the oxygen out as waste. Remember, oxygen is a byproduct or a waste, and keeps all the hydrogens in here, okay, in the thylakoids. So this thylakoid is full of hydrogens, okay, and that's what happens in the light dependent reaction. Light comes into the thylakoid, water comes into the thylakoids, the light hits the water, splits the molecule, and keeps the hydrogens inside, and gets rid of the oxygen. Okay? Now, all those hydrogens in there get picked up by two molecules that two molecules that we talked about. Okay? And the first one is this NADPH right here, right? NADP, I'm sorry. NADP comes in, picks up the hydrogens, and then it turns into this molecule, NADPH. Okay? ADP and AP come in to the thylakoids, and they get turned into ATP. Okay? So again, in the light-dependent reaction, light comes into the thylakoid, water goes in, light hits the water, splits it, gets rid of the oxygen, okay, and then keeps all the hydrogens inside. The NADP comes into the thylakoid, picks up the hydrogens, and it turns into NAPH, right? ADP plus P comes in and turns into ATP. Now, once those molecules are made, once ATP and NADPH are formed, then they go into what is called the Calvin cycle. Okay, and we call this, if you remember, we said those are the light independent, okay, light independent reactions. Okay, so in the light independent reactions, carbon dioxide goes into the chloroplast, and then that carbon dioxide, as it goes into the chloroplast, it goes into the Calvin cycle, which you see here, okay, and the carbon dioxide and the NADPH2 combined, okay, they use this ATP right here to combine and make sugar, okay. So if you look at this diagram, let me erase this circles right here. I don't want to have those in that color. I'm going to color those in the different colors so that you can see the difference. So we got sugar and we got oxygen. And if we write the equation down here, you would see that is CO2, 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O, okay, plus light gives us O2 plus glucose or sugar, okay? And we see that here in the picture, okay? We see that we have our reactants over here, okay? The light, water, and CO2, and then we have our products down here on this side of the chloroplast, okay? It's just divided into two. In the light-dependent reactions, light and water go in, they get split, and we have our oxygen coming out of the chloroplast. In the light independent, you have CO2 coming in, and then the ATP helps the CO2 and the NADPH form glucose, or the energy that we use. Okay, so that is photosynthesis, the two steps of photosynthesis. We talked about the thylakoids. We also talked about this area, which is called the stroma, okay, is the stroma of the chloroplast. And the other term that we talked about, we said it was, or we talked about, is the stomata, which is just the, sorry about that, let me zoom in and write it, stomata. We talked about the stomata, and those are just openings, okay, so those are openings in the cell where the CO2 comes in and where the O2 leaves the cell. So again, this is photosynthesis, okay? Make sure you can go through the picture and understand how photosynthesis works. Understand that 6 O2, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water plus light yield or makes 6, I didn't put the 6 molecules of oxygen plus glucose, which is the C6H12O6. Okay? If you still need any help, make sure you come by tutoring, and we'll talk more about photosynthesis. Okay?